Welcome to Fall, Rise, Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Welcome to another edition of Fall, Rise, Give. Turn struggles into opportunities by being your true self and help others. How you doing? I'm Bartender Bob. My co-host today is Gabe, and our special guest is here for the second time. We've got Kelly Adams joining us. Kelly wrote a book called Should I Do Sober? The last time we talked with Kelly was right before the book was published. And I want to talk about the struggle of the book before we jump into too much stuff here, Kelly, because I know that when we set up the first interview, when Gabe set it up with you, that we had, you know, you were thinking it's going to be up next week and then the week after. And then pretty soon it's like it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. How hard is it to come up with and create a book and worry about getting it all published?
Yeah, self-publishing is, it sounds like when someone wants to build their own website with a, like Wix or something, it's supposed to be super easy, which there's a lot of benefits to self-publishing. And part of our delay was just life. My editor ran into some really challenging times in her own life. So some of those final edits got hung up. We had an issue with my youngest daughter's predator showed up on her doorstep. So we had to go into hiding for like a week. So it wasn't necessarily the publishing, it was life. Okay. Self-publishing does pose a lot of challenges, but I'm going to do it again. So it didn't scare me. I guess it's like childbirth, right? You just do it again.
The cool thing about having you on a second time is Gabe said to Kumar, hey, I'd like to fill in for you if I can, because I have a ton of questions I'd like to ask Kelly. So Gabe, spotlight is on you.
Kelly, congratulations on the book, by the way. It sounds like you had some setbacks, trying to get it out. And that wasn't the only thing that you've been going through lately. What can you tell us about what happened with the deactivation of your Meta accounts?
Yeah, so I am a marketer as my trade. I help small businesses manage their social media. And it's been great. I've been doing it since 2013 with no issues. And then I have a client who moved into a very small town in Montana, and they have a very disgruntled competitor. And we think something maliciously happened to their account, which was attached to my account. So my personal account got shut down. My marketing business account got shut down, and my Should I Do Sober, all of it's gone. All of it. My personal account I've had since, I don't know, the inception of Facebook. So I tried to fight it, and it's just a waste of time. Meta is incredibly full of technology. In fact, they said our technology detected a violation. I did nothing to violate anything. It was an unfortunate storm. With this other client who I love, and they felt terrible. It wasn't anybody's fault, but I'm still struggling. I finally just gave up with Meta and rebuilt everything. So where I went from almost 3,000 followers on my Should I Do Sober pages, I'm back to 380. But I'm like, I'm not going to win this battle, so I'm just going to move on. I cried for 2 days, and then I was like, you got to put on your big girl panties and this is some more shit you do sober. You conquer and overcome, right? Some friends and I were talking about it, and I was like, the amount of junk and porn that I get in my messenger, it's like, you're going to shut me down. I'm legit, but I get all this crap that I don't want to see. It's AI is, I think, the big problem.
What strategies or tools have you found to be most effective in helping to stay on the straight path?
During challenges like that?
Yeah.
Honestly, my higher power. I don't know if I talked about that enough the last time we were online together, but I had to just give it over. Like, I realized the second day I was on my couch with this latest incident, I was like, this isn't healthy. I have no control over AI. I have no control over the guy that we think sabotaged my client's page. The only thing I have control over is giving it to my higher power and then moving on. And one thing my sponsor always says is do the possible, let God do the impossible. So the possible for me was starting over. And then things have oddly fallen into a weird synchronicity in a good way. The other unfortunate thing is I had one other client who lost their pages that was also attached to my Meta account. And I felt terrible, but they are like, we're kind of excited about the new start. So we're all feeling this refreshment after all that badness. But for me, I just have to stay really connected to my program, really connected to my higher power, which oddly I forget. That is not my first go-to. It's not natural for me, but it tends to help.
Yeah. And it's being in the program is so beneficial. Like you when you stay in gratitude, you tend to see the silver linings and everything, or they just, come up naturally, which is really the beautiful
Yeah.
thing about that. So where can people find you now if you don't have those old accounts?
So the Instagram is called Should I Do Sober Book. Facebook is the same, Should I Do Sober Book. And then I started an X account, which is just Should I Do Sober. So yes, if you can find me, follow me. I would love it. The odd thing is, even though they suspended my first Should I Do Sober Instagram, it's still there. I can't log in. I can't do anything with it. I guess they're going to take it down in, 130 days. So there might be some confusion there.
Can you download things and then re-upload them to your new page?
Luckily, I could, because that old page is still there. So one Sunday morning, I downloaded everything and saved it. And now I'm putting it back up in the reverse order. So those followers I had aren't like, okay, spam. Why is this lady posting things twice? So I'm just flipping it and then adding some new stuff in as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually, it's kind of like the Phoenix then, isn't it? Where a thing just kind of rebirthed and here you go. And it's maybe going to give you new followers and new people and new looks and new likes.
Yeah. And with my marketing account, I had someone rebrand it. I haven't rebranded it since 2013 and I've been getting such good feedback on that. So I was like, all right. So I was pretty sad for a couple of days, but here we are. It's all fine. I'm not drinking. That's the gift.
Let's talk a little bit about the book. I know we talked about the book last time. It's called Should I Do Sober? And you teased us with some stories the first time because you didn't really want to put them out because the book wasn't available. Now the book is available. Can you share like one of the stories that pops out to you of, wow, I'm glad I'm sober now because the shit I did then?
Yeah, a lot of it, and I know I had mentioned I was worried about two instances that I thought I was going to get backlash on, and I haven't actually. What was that? Now that I'm trying to think about it. Well, with my second daughter, I drank wine. So I was like, and she's autistic now. So she's been autistic her whole life. We didn't know till she was 16. But I've always had that mom guilt. Like I shouldn't have drank when I was pregnant. And I've talked to doctors about it. And I didn't indulge like I did prior to pregnancy. I had maybe 2 or 3 glasses of wine a week, and I'm not lying. That's that's that old thing when you're drunk. Oh, I only had 2 drinks. But really when I was pregnant, that was the truth. So that's one thing that's been a relief. I haven't had anybody say, oh, you're a shitty mom, or you shouldn't have done that. And of course that's your fault. And doctors have told me it's not. So that was the one thing. The other was an affair that I had while I was drinking. And, the only person who's mentioned that was my older sister. And it's funny because she said, so who was the guy? And I told her, and she's like, I knew about this like 20 years ago. I was like, you did? So I guess a friend of mine at a wedding told her. They were gossiping and she told her. And my sister was like, I just decided never to talk to you about it. I was like, okay, so there we are. She wasn't critical outwardly. I don't know if she is or not, but those were the 2 things I was very worried about. The worst feedback I've gotten so far is it was my ex-mother-in-law, actually. And she said, I feel like I just read your personal diary. And I was like, well, you did. You did, But what I was able to tell her is if I don't bring the mess, people aren't going to hear the message. So I brought the mess. And there's a lot more, but I kept it at a 268-page book.
Was it cleansing to you to let all of that go?
Yes. Yeah, I just actually got a beautiful, like 3,000 word review in my email yesterday from a lady I went to kindergarten with. She read the book, and as I was responding to her, and thanking her for this beautiful review, I said, it means a lot to me because all of the months that I wrote and rewrote and sobbed and rewrote and sobbed, I finally hit the publish button. And yes, it was very healing because I've been carrying that stuff. And, going back to the criticism of it being a journal, for someone who's never sat in an AA meeting, it will be shocking. But when you sit in an AA or a recovery meeting and you're spilling all your dirt and laughing about it and crying about it, I don't expect the normal person to get that. But for me, it was an incredibly healing process, and it has evolved me a little bit more into being an adult. I mean, I'm almost 58 and I'm learning how to be an adult, but I had to let that stuff go. And now it's out there. And I'm sure, there may be more judgment down the pipe. I don't know.
I think I know what you mean when you say that there's some things in there that only AAers will get. This sort of sick sense of humor that we have, when we talk about
Yeah.
some of the things that we've done in our lives, that we're not proud of. And it's so awesome to have the ability to laugh at this now and to keep a good sense of humor. And you talked about how you are sort of like learning to become an adult late in life. I totally resonate with that. Can you talk more about that?
For years, I'm the baby of the family. Even at 57, there's still that persona that I don't know what I'm doing. I need advice. All these things that drove me crazy growing up, like, don't tell me what to do. I got this. Well, the truth is, I didn't have it. I didn't have it for years. That doesn't mean I needed my older brother and sister to tell me, but I finally feel like I'm coming into my own, and I'm not in a bad way, but unapologetic. Like, this is who I am. I'm going to make mistakes. I don't have my finances together yet, but I'm a hell of a lot more adult than I was 11 years ago, and I know they say in AA, we stunt our growth from the time we start drinking or from the age we start drinking. I was 13. And I remember the day my oldest daughter was handed to me in the hospital. I was afraid to hold her. I just felt like this child holding a child. And my mom looked at me like, take your baby. And it wasn't that I didn't have this immense amount of love for her, but I was scared out of my mind. Like, I'm still a child. What am I going to do with this precious little human? But I'm finally feeling proud. I feel pride in myself and my growth. But I also am more open to advice, even if it's unsolicited. And I think that's just part of being an adult. Like, I just have to take other people's experiences and apply them to myself. And I didn't have that when I was a teenager. I did whatever the hell I wanted. And that's the other thing is I can't do whatever the hell I want now. I'm a wife. I'm a mom to two beautiful daughters. One has autism, so there's a lot of maintenance there. Stepdaughter. Um, I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. But I've been doing that since I was drinking, and it was not successful then. I was working 2 hours a day because I was passed out the other 10 hours a day. So just doing adult things like, I don't know, normal people do.
I know that you mentioned one of the big things that you started doing since you got sober is you were joining your husband in rock climbing.
Yeah.
Have you added anything to the list since we last talked to you?
Really, life's just been super busy with family. One exciting thing is we are moving to another city, and he's already there, and he got involved when Bob mentioned Phoenix Rising. There's a Phoenix recovery group that is not affiliated with AA, but what they do, they meet at the climbing gym every Saturday night. And it's not just alcohol, it's any kind of recovery. But they do disc golf, they do hiking, they do all these things that are outside, which in my Instagram page, I have a whole little tab that says get outside, because for me, there's just something about that. So while I haven't done much lately, I'm looking forward to that. We're moving in about 4 weeks and just seeing how we can expand our outdoor experiences.
Moving sucks. I hate moving.
I hate freaking moving. We are in the middle of, we got my kitchen packed yesterday. My daughter was like, what are you going to eat off of? And I'm like, just save me 2 of everything and then pack the rest of it. I don't even care. Just put it in a box. She's like, well, what do we need to do first? I'm like, nothing. Just put it in a box. It all has to go.
You've
It's
moved
funny.
quite a bit in your life.
22 times. This will be my 22nd time.
Oh my
22nd
gosh.
time you've moved? Holy
Yeah.
cow. So
Yeah.
so I mentioned I hate moving. The funny thing is that Gabe moves all the time. Every day is a new adventure for you, right, Gabe?
Right. We are settling down in like a small town in California right now, but moving has been a big part of my life also. And I used to think it was because, how people say, oh, we thrive in chaos. And so it just
Yeah.
became normal for me to like always have something new every day. But I think as I get older, I'm kind of enjoying having the stability. Which means that it's not to say that I don't want to have new experiences and wake up in new towns, but I'm really like prioritizing routine more. How about you? Do you think that's changed for you over the years as far as like stability versus novelty and change?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I feel so much more grounded. I didn't do a lot of the geographics that are mentioned in recovery for that reason in particular. I think, well, I know the one to Las Vegas from Michigan was definitely, I need to get away from these people that are doing coke, these people that are drinking, because it wasn't my fault, right? It was all these people. So my dad lived in Vegas and I moved there. But now that I'm older, I am desperate for stability. I want, and I'm sick of moving, honestly. If we're going into another rental. But unfortunately, I'm not unfortunately married to an alcoholic. That's not my point. I love my husband. The unfortunate part is we both made financial decisions while we were drinking, and then we joined our bad financial decisions. So we're still renters. I'm 57 years old. I would love to own a house someday. But yeah, I definitely love being grounded. I'm way more a homebody than I used to be. And honestly, I've probably always been an introvert, and that is why I drank. And now that I don't drink, I'm okay. Like I like being alone. I find solitude to be very healing, and I really can dig into the silence to find whatever I need to work on. But
Mm.
it's odd because I hate moving, but I was so fired up to start packing yesterday. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you finding such joy in this? I have no idea. There's something weird there.
So when you were mentioning the move from Vegas to Michigan, you said tongue in cheek, it's not my fault, it's their people. As a person that's in recovery now, you're taking personal responsibility. Did you take personal responsibility back when you were using?
No, you mean while I was still actively using?
Yeah. Yes.
No, and in fact, that took a while. In AA, there's 12 steps. And until I started doing those steps, I was a victim. I didn't take any responsibility until I really started digging into why I drank. And that went way back. I mean, that went way back to childhood and the victimization that was pretty false. I mean, there was some trauma in my childhood, but I wasn't abused. I had a really solid foundation family, but I blamed a lot of people along the way. And my poor mother, we've had an on and off relationship, and I blamed her for so much until I did my steps. And I talked to my sponsor one day about it because we were trying to figure out my role. Okay, my role in my resentment to my mom. And I said, I don't understand how it could be my role or how I have a role in this when I was a child. And she's like, because you're still hanging on to it. That's your role. And I was like, oh. Now my mom and I have a beautiful relationship, and that's magical. But no, I blamed everybody. The coke that we did, the alcohol, well, they just gave that to me. Like that, oh, okay, well, you could have said no, right?
Mm.
But no, I was thoroughly convinced that if I moved away from those people, I'd be fine. And that was a lie.
How did you learn to let that stuff go, like your mom suggested?
Well, my sponsor suggested about my mom.
Or yeah. Yes.
I went through all the steps and started working on a living amends with my mom. I've never done a written or sat down with her and apologized for anything, but I've had many opportunities, especially recently, to show up for her. And my mom went through a lot. Um, she was a widow when she was 19 with a 2-year-old. And I
Wow.
had to really start
Terrible.
looking at her life and realize, like, man, she really just did the best she could. And she went through, her husband was a state trooper in Michigan and he was murdered, shot in the line of duty. And that doesn't go away. So my mom did the best she could. She's 88 now. She's spunky as can be. And I just finally had to get out of myself and look at her as a human being, not just my mom. Like that shit she went through. And it really hit me when my oldest daughter turned 19 and I realized what a child she still was. And that's the age my mom became a widow. So it was pretty profound, but I wouldn't have had that clarity if I was still drinking. That's the gift in putting the drink down, is you see clearly that the people around you aren't abusers or victimized. I mean, they are. There's a lot of people who have that in their lives. But my mom just was trying to do the best she could.
It sounds like you've utilized compassion in order to, forgive and really take accountability, which is like the most powerful thing really you can do to like accelerate your growth as a human being. How else has compassion shaped your life since entering the program?
In my daily life with my daughter, my autistic daughter, and I was talking to her this morning. She goes to my Sunday morning AA meetings with me. And I said, I'm just so proud of you. I was actually in tears all the way to the meeting. And those tears were gratitude because she went through an abusive, very, very bad situation 2 years ago. And she has come so far. But I find compassion in her healing somehow is like, I don't even know how to explain it. This child has been through so much. And I was so mean to her for so many years because I didn't know she was autistic. I just thought she was belligerent, right? So again, putting the drink down allows me that space because drinking takes up so much time, like hours a day. So getting sober allowed me the space to see her for the special needs person she is. And showing that compassion to her heals me, heals her, heals people around me. I have a sponsee right now who's going through something similar with her daughter, and I've been able to show compassion to her with shared experience. And I always thought how I knew at some point this situation with my daughter was going to help others. And it's finally coming to fruition 2.5 years later. It's just freedom. I mean, sobriety is just freedom. So if that made any sense.
What was your
Absolutely.
motivation to write your book, Should I Do Sober?
Help others. Honestly, I've been telling people lately, I mean, it's not unusual that we had alcohol hidden around the house. Like you hear in the toilet, in the hamper or whatever. But I've been saying lately, I didn't even have a laundry room. I had a laundry closet. And as a mom, I would go sit in the laundry closet and drink. And as I get sober, I'm like, moms don't need to suffer. No one needs to suffer. But the marketing toward moms in general they're like brutal, right? They do mommy happy hours, mommy angry mommy, and scary mommy, and mommy wine, and mommy sippy cups, and all this marketing towards coping with your kids by drinking. It's so fucked up. Pardon my F-bomb, but I played into that. I thought it was hilarious when I was still a drinking mom. So I wrote the book honestly to help others maybe not hit the bottom I hit and not to sit in shame. I mean, I drank till my kids were 13 and 15, and I was shameful that whole time and ended up suicidal. I don't want other moms to go through that. And I don't want them to be ashamed. I was the mom with the wine and the coffee cup everywhere I went. I had purse wine, I had Fireball, I had joints. I mean, it just didn't matter. But in my mind, it was justified because the marketing in our society towards moms is brutal. So that was my motivation. And it's been really inspiring lately. I've had people who bought my book who have passed it on to moms who need to read it. I'm like, that is exactly why I wrote my book. Thank you for sharing it. So that's solely it. I hear women in meetings say their kids have never seen them drunk. I'm like, what a gift. I wish my kids had never seen me drunk, but they saw me drunk for so long. So that's really my motivation.
Was there shame when you had that, when you dealt with your kids seeing you drunk and, showing up to the soccer, proverbial soccer game with a bottle of booze in your purse?
Hidden shame. There was hidden shame because I knew, I would justify it, right? Like, I deserve this. I had a long day. My autistic one was very strong-willed, very spirited, I will say. So I always felt like I deserved it. But deep down, I knew I shouldn't be drinking that way. And I would look at other moms who I knew were sober and just looked to have it all together. And I just envied them. Like, I can't do that. How do I get that life? How do I mom without being drunk? It's so sad, but I really can't park myself in the past like that.
It's funny though. You said that you looked at other moms and other, families and said that they had their shit together. I know that nobody has their shit together. Everybody's got their... No,
they don't.
Everybody's got their stuff, Yeah,
it's all perception. And there's a little section in my book, and it's one of the middle sections. Like, I split up the chapters with these short stories. And there's one about being on time. Because I was always the disheveled mom rolling into the parking lot 20 minutes late when the kids were going to camp or whatever, with my coffee cup full of wine, smelling like alcohol from the night before. So I made the assumption all those moms had it together. Who knows? Maybe they were better at not wearing sweats and having their hair a mess. Who knows? But yeah, in your drunk mind, there's all kinds of lying that goes on. So, it's terrible.
So you mentioned earlier that you want to write a second book. What's the second book going to be called, or do you have an idea?
Well, I actually have two that I'm working with in my brain right now. One is actually not related to sobriety, but autism and diet. And I have a nutritionist who wants to help me with that because my daughter is challenged to eat healthy, but she also can't really do things that have more than 3 steps. So a standard recipe is just too much. But she struggles so much with gut issues, and our gut is our second brain. Anyway, I just feel compelled to do this book. But the other one I want to do is, and I cannot figure out how to formulate it, but it'll come to me, but a children's book, like children's of alcoholics. And I don't know how to present that in a childlike manner, but I want to give them something to say, like, it's not your fault. And on my way to my meeting this morning, I thought maybe I reach out to some other parents who are in sobriety and say, what would you tell your children? Like, I've done amends with my kids, and it's not your fault. I would have treated anybody this way. But I really want to do just a very simple book for kids struggling or working with parents trying to get sober. I'm just not sure. It's a delicate situation. I'm not sure how to do it, but I also didn't know how to write this book, so I know it'll come to me at some point.
I think this was a great interview.
It was really good. I appreciate coming back a second time, and the plug for my new social media. Instagram, it's Should I Do Sober Book. On Facebook, it's Should I Do Sober Book. And then on X, formerly known as Twitter, it's just Should I Do Sober.
What's been your give, Kelly?
Giving back to the sober community. That's a big gift. And lately, it's what's saved me getting out of myself. So I give, but that also helps me. And I don't do it selfishly, but it's funny how the universe just gives us those opportunities when I'm sitting in a funk. If I can get out and help someone else, then suddenly I feel better. So that's been my give. We get what we need when it's time. I firmly believe that.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall Rise Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall Rise Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.